Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. My name is Cindy and it is November 12th. And as you can see, Jerry feels like he's helping. So we're going to just let him help. Okay, so I want a little bit of guidance or insight on how this next week is going to unfold. You've got the hearings. There's that state visit with Erdogan. And of course, there's going to be Trump reacting to the fact that there's a lot of stuff going on that he's going to try to be diverting attention from. So I just thought that maybe we could find out, what's ahead for the next week or so in Washington. So come on down. Okay, so maybe we'll just give this a couple more quick shuffles and then we'll see what we can see. All right. What I want to know is what to expect this week in Washington. So, this week in Washington, this week in Washington, this week in Washington. Okay, well, that was a rather pleasant way to start. Okay, so this card literally is saying, and so the end begins. And so one chapter starts to come to a close, and it's actually not a chapter, it's a book. And then so it allows room for the next to open up. Now, is this going to happen in a New York minute? No, it's not. But the process, energy-wise, has now started to come together more forcefully and with more strength. So what that does is that starts to build the literally the energy to create the change. So this is like really lovely, and it's showing here that the Democrats' case is much stronger and the witnesses are much stronger. For even those who have actually read the transcripts, there's going to be something very, very significant about hearing these people speak in their own words. And that's, we've got two witnesses, I think, on Wednesday and one on Friday, if I remember correctly. So the information is going to come out, and they're timing it really nicely, because what they're doing is they're giving little spaces between so that people actually have a chance to absorb what was said. Make no mistake, they have a very, very clear strategy. They know what they're doing. They played this game a long time. These are, for the most part, not only a seasoned legal professionals, but they are seasoned politicians, and they are not going to drop this ball, or at the very least, they're going to do everything they can to ensure they don't drop the ball. As far as the Republicans go, they keep trying to move this situation into smoother ground. And the way they're doing that is by this constant, ridiculous chatter. Things that they absolutely believed in now are ridiculous. And of course, whistleblowers should not be kept anonymous. That's insane. But they're just going to keep ramping this up because they really are under the thumb of what Trump wants at this point. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to some of these Republicans when Trump's numbers, when his popularity starts to drift away. I mean, the evangelicals are going to stay solid because that's what they do, but the other people, the independents, the right-leaning independents or Republicans who have come to be horrified by what they see going on. So for right now, you can expect a lot more theatrics from these people. They have to do everything in their power to defend Trump until such time that Trump's numbers drop low enough. And that is when you are going to see people literally starting to walk away from Trump and from this situation. Now, I still do not have any clarity on whether it's a foregone conclusion that there's going to be articles of impeachment, certainly energetically. So that means that, in fact, Trump is going to get impeached. But that is very separate from having the votes to remove him from office. And that's the calculation that's going on right now. That is the energy that is in flux, and it will become more in flux. It's going to pick up that speed as more and more information comes out, and then we're going to have a much better idea of how the energies are falling, and what that's looking like going forward. There's definitely this need and this strategy, if you will, on the part of the Republicans to just keep throwing out stuff, just see what sticks. It's gotten to the point where it really honestly doesn't matter how outrageous what they're saying is. And what's, I guess, humorous to me, or perhaps head scratching, I'm not sure, is the fact that these politicians stand in these halls and they make these statements and these comments, and there's no question that they are playing to their base. However, the rest of the country, and indeed the rest of the world, is also listening. And I mean, that I think is what is so astounding about this situation, is the way that they whip up emotions, again, in Trump's base. That's it. Those are the only emotions that are getting whipped up, except for pure disgust and annoyance and even anger from anybody else who is not in that Trump bubble. They're going to continue doing this, and they're going to continue to try to protect this guy from an emotional place as from a logical or legal place. So there's going to be a lot of compliments, and he's so wonderful, and how can you do this to him? He's just the best president ever. Look, everything he's done. It's all going to be emotional. They're going to try to tug at your strings from an emotional place because they recognize that they really don't have a leg to stand on from a legal or even procedural place. So expect theatrics from the Republicans. Expect nonsense from them. Expect a lot of showboating because they don't have anything else. They don't actually have a way to communicate their message except through these sort of ridiculous theatrics. So what we have is there's going to be information coming forward. It's not going to come forward it's going to come very rapidly and, sort of with a whoosh of information. But there's going to be an energy that surrounds it that allows for an absorption of what has been said during the course of the day. And so the information should hit its mark. It should hit the people who need to hear it. And honestly, the people who need to hear it is every single American, because this is your country. and you ultimately have a say in what goes on or doesn't go on. You just seem to, simply have to use the strength of your power as voters. You've done it lots of other times in the 3 years, and this is another one of those occasions where you are literally going to rise to the challenge and make sure that that which needs to be exposed, that which needs a bright light on it, that which is truth, is communicated with clarity. Okay, so this pertains to you, to the voters. This is about what you can do and how you can make your impact felt in this situation. And make no mistake, Republicans are going to be paying very, very close attention to the polls. There's a half a dozen of them, maybe a dozen, who either are just so desperate that they will appear to agree with everything he says, or on some fundamental level actually do agree, and frankly, that's even more scary. But for the vast majority of Republicans in office, they know this is crazy, okay? They know this is not normal. They know this is not what should be. They are just simply too scared and too spineless to stand up under their own steam and say this is wrong. They're so scared of being primaried or voted out of office, right? That they are frozen. They are absolutely frozen in place. And so until the poll numbers start to give them more and more wiggle room, just expect that wall of red, okay? It's just going to be there because for right now, there isn't enough energy to knock the wall down. However, as these hearings go on and as more and more information comes out, the theatrics are going to continue. However, you are going to see a sobering of their attitude, because as this stuff comes out, they're going to really, really lose their ability to fight the narrative. So do not be surprised. Do not be surprised if at some point today, and certainly into Wednesday and Thursday, you may start to hear, literally, if you are a Republican and you are loyal to President Trump, you must boycott the hearings. They are a sham. There is no truth. And so why would you support, by your viewing the hearings, why would you support the idea that the hearings have any legitimacy? I'm not kidding. I can clearly see this message being sent, because they really don't, if you think about it, they don't have any other choice, right? I mean, they can't say, watch the hearings, you'll see how innocent I am. So all they can say is, don't watch them. Let's keep you Republicans in the dark. Let's keep you evangelicals in your nice little Armageddon is coming and therefore the rapture bubble, okay? Don't be surprised. And do not be at all surprised for the right-wing media to barely cover this, or simply cover it with such a sense of outrage that what they're pushing is the emotions behind it, as opposed to the, the law, the legalities, the logic. Yeah, none of that is going to be a part of their chant and their story. Are they worrying? You bet they're worrying. They're tired of defending themselves. They're not getting enough sleep. They wish Trump would just stop charging in, literally where angels fear to tread. This man is, he's not fearless. He is terrified, and he is panicked. And he is increasingly unstable and detached from the reality of what's going on in the actual real world. And so he is like an out of control, I don't know, whatever's out of control. Just something spinning that you can't pull it in, you can't rein it in. It's just going to do what it's doing. And that's exactly what's going on. And frankly, a lot of the people around him in that close circle have recognized there's nothing they can say or do. So they're just kind of going to let him, Trump be Trump. And their response, the GOP members' response to that, is to worry and to defend themselves and to try to defend these actions. And again, what plays for the Fox News crowd doesn't play for the rest of the country. And the reality is that the rest of the country is also broadcasting the insanity of the things that they say. So, on the one hand, they are they're bubbling up the excitement with that base, but what they're doing is they are creating, never mind a bubbling up, they are creating a full blown boil of everybody else's emotions and everybody else's realization that, we cannot take our pedal off the metal, right? We got to get this done because it's going to take a while yet for those people who are still open-minded to shift sides, and I'm guessing that they're going to. It looks like they will, but whether that is ultimately going to be enough is still up in the air yet. So I want to put this back together, and I want to take a look at I think I want to take a look at just Trump specifically and where he is at emotionally. And I want to take, just see how this guy is going to be responding and reacting to what is going on around him in the White House and, behind closed doors. So Trump this week, Trump this week, Trump this week. He continues and will continue to be incredibly defensive. Not only was the phone call perfect, but he's the perfect president. His presidency has been perfect. There has been nothing wrong. There has been no wrongdoing. Not like the Bidens. I'm telling you, that Biden son, boy, he sure took advantage. Oh, and by the way, have you heard about my daughter's latest thing or my son's latest book? It's insane, okay? So that behavior, that posturing, that defensiveness, that pushing back and fighting back and the aggressiveness of him is going to continue to be there, and it's going to continue to increase. And this is why it's going to continue to increase, because as this information comes out, he's going to actually start to realize that so much is coming out that that it's really hard to defend against. So that makes it then that much harder, right? I mean, he's recognizing that the promise of the presidency, the glory, the admiration, the respect, the power, the force, all of those things that in his head made him such a powerful leader. Okay, they're all delusions. But he is seeing the promise of that starting to just dissipate. And he's going to start to see his own party either becoming very quiet or actually literally starting to see that pulling away. It's not going to be huge and dramatic, okay? If anybody is expecting that sort of John Dean moment in these hearings, I think you're actually going to be a little bit disappointed in part because the information that, a lot of these witnesses are going to be giving in public in front of the TVs is the same information that they already gave behind closed doors in the depositions, and the depositions have been released. So, there's going to be a few really kind of interesting pieces, but more importantly, it's going to be the way the story gets told, the way all the pieces get woven together to create sort of a tapestry, if you will, of the whole story. So he is going to be, he's going to be him. It's going to become amplified. These are not new or surprising revelations here. The worse it gets for him, the more erratic and foolish and foolhardy his behavior becomes. And that's exactly what we're dealing with. On some level, there is some significant concern about how he is viewed globally or internationally, in part because his strategy for post-presidency is really very dependent on the Trump name maintaining a good and strong brand. And there is a realization, I don't know that it's coming to a lot of them because frankly, they, kind of live in this strange place. But for the most part, I can tell you that there is some awareness of the fact that the brand is actually really, really losing. I mean, we know hotels have been losing. We know there's been a real downturn. But in some ways, this is almost going to be one of the final blows that this thing, this brand can take. And so his concern is, well, how much leverage do I have going forward after this? He's going to yell and scream about the government. He's going to yell and scream about, justice and justice not being fair and people picking on him and people, not hearing his side of. Do not be surprised, honest to God, do not be surprised if at some point over the next couple of weeks he actually starts screaming about testifying in public. Don't be surprised. Not going to happen. Somebody will shut him down, but don't be surprised. And here we have the Lovers, which should represent sort of a coming together of groups. But this is interesting. Not very often, or I certainly don't read it this way, but you cannot help but noticing that there is a third energy between the male and female in this card, okay? In some ways, their energy is coming sort of down the middle between the two of them and is creating a bit of a block or a separation, okay? This is reflective of what you're going to see going on. You've got you've got Trump and you've got the party faithful here, okay? And coming down between their loyalty and their self-sacrifice to this fool is an energy of truth and of strength that they are going to have a very, very hard time pushing back against. They have gotten so cocky and so ridiculous in the way they defend him, the way they defend Trump. And of course, Trump is completely bought into it. It's like, yes, I'm standing in front of this blue wall, but I'm telling you it's red and you're going to believe it's red. That sort of mentality of it doesn't matter how outrageous whatever I say is, you're just going to believe me because you're gonna. And that is going to start to crumble, because it's one thing to tell people who hear you on the radio, for example, that you are standing in front of a red wall. It's a very different thing to be televised, to have it in public, in a public forum, and there you are standing in front of that blue wall screaming it's red. And that is just literally kind of the feeling and the energy that is coming off of the GOP. As this happens, make no mistake, you know, he's more erratic, more defensive. He's going to be working harder. He's going to be trying to cover up stuff. His lies are going to become so outrageous you're not even going to recognize him. He's going to try to distract by not only Erdogan's visit, but other global type things. He's going to be making crazy statements, or he's just going to do whatever he can do within the power of his office to distract from what is going on. It is absolutely going to be a failed attempt. You know, it's never a good thing for Trump when both the Fool and the King of Pentacles, my two cards for him, show up, because it just means that the energy is becoming more and more focused and concentrated on him and on his behavior. So, make no mistake, the hearings are going to move forward. They are going to be dangerous for Trump. They're going to be destructive for him. He is going to continue to turn away from the truth, as are the people around him, to whatever degree that they can actually manage this. Make no mistake, these hearings are going to be incredibly fruitful. They are going to put forward a lot of information. And so the Democrats are going to come out ahead. But be wary. There is going to be so much distraction going on, so many false narratives, so many stories. And that's just going to be, frankly, what you're going to have to get used to for the next week, 2, 3, 4, however long these hearings last, and whatever goes on with them. Expect this sort of divergent stories being told, right? Judgment comes. Here comes the Tower, and there comes the disappointment and walking away. Okay, so you guys need to start like paying attention, get focused. You know, take your vitamins, and I think it's eat your Wheaties. I think that's what Rachel Maddow says. You're going to want to do that. You're going to want to make sure that you sort of are as focused as you can be. Take time, you know, regroup, ground to nature, sing in the shower, eat a cheesecake, whatever is going to help you. But you do need to start really focusing in on what is being said. Okay. Thank you very, very much for all of your support. And I will see you tomorrow. I'm not sure at what point, because I may actually want to watch some of the hearings before I put out my next video. But at some point, I will surface on Wednesday. And so until then, thank you for everything. Thank you for your support. Take care. Be well. And I'll see you really soon. Bye.